how about explaining the mystery of the thread that runs throughout all ancient monistic metaphysics, both Indian and Greek and some earlier, most of which we don't know about, but certainly so Pythagorean. Okay, let's talk about the soul, for example. Okay, now let's take a statement that is often stated by most of humanity, you know, where my soul is, or whether there is a soul. Well, of course there is a soul, but the question of having a soul in the body is as absurd and ridiculous as thinking that there's a signal inside of a radio. What is coincident to something is not part and parcel to it. The light that falls on a wall is consubstantial. In other words, white light passing through a red filter, you see red light. White light passing through a blue filter, you see blue light. Now, what is the thread that is found in ancient Greek and Indian and all forms of noble ancient monistic metaphysics that is undeniable? That is that there are two selves. The self as in the Purisha, the person, the spirit, the nous, the spiritus sanctum, i.e. the soul, and the persona, i.e. the persona non grata. Bob, Sue, Larry, the psychophysical, the corporeal, the existential. Do you know that existential literally means existence, and the very term existence means to be outside of yourself, existence. So what about the self or the soul that we're referring to? Did you know that the very term, both in ancient Egyptian and in ancient Prakrit, which I translate, by the way, and I also translate ancient Greek, the Aten, as found in Sanskrit, Atman, or as in ancient Prakrit, Aten, is also the same term that we use in English today, atmosphere, atmosphere, atmospheric, i.e. the air, weather, the movement of air, the spiritus sancta, the pneumatic principle. Now, what has been bastardized over the past 2,000 years and is commonly taught in various places, breath meditation, was originally never had anything to do with breath meditation. It was a reference to the animus, the spiritus sancti. You use the retroductive or the apophatic methodology of objective negation to arrive at subjective synthesis, i.e. what you want to call illumination or enlightenment or comprehension. So the same term that we have in English goes all the way back to and is the same root principle as the ancient Egyptians, the Aten, the sun disk, meaning the spiritus sancti, the soul, the absolute principle which is posterior to all phenomena. Now, this principle is found in Plato's Republic 406, the Timaeus 79, the Philebus, and the soul of the soul is spoken of by both Pythagoras, Proclus, Numenius, Plato, Plotinus, Albinus, all the ancient Greek Platonists. I mean, who are we to foolishly think of the human body having a soul? Now, this is where idiots misconstrue things. When I were to say that there is no soul in the body, this is not me stating that there is no soul. This is me stating that the soul the body has no soul. Nobody has a soul. Has implies possession. Where my soul is, a soul is never where. What is where is always something that has magnitude. What has magnitude, as the Greeks would refer to it, as a topos. That which has a Cartesian coordinate in space and time, because space and time are nothing other than man-made creations of things which have magnitude and change and flux and relative to other things. So possession, i.e. my soul, is ridiculous. To say that this radio,
target shooting or carrying in your purse to protect yourself,
to say or think that this radio has a signal, it does not have a signal. There is a signal that is tuned in to this radio. It is consubstantial to it. Just as if you were inside a church and you were to look at all the pretty colors of the light passing through the stained glass window, that window does not have any light. The light is consubstantial and coordinate to it, and we have a posterior attribute, and the causation in conjunction with the principle that it is coordinate to over a given period of time is the soul of the stained glass window. That's actually an old ancient saying from the Victorian days. They would talk about the soul of a house, or like the soul of a creation. Back to atmosphere. The animus, the spiritus sancta. Now, the Greeks had, and the ancient Indians and the Pythagoreans had, even though they didn't have radios, they had the exact same analogy that I gave you with the radio. Except it was the animus, the spiritus sancta, the pneumatic principle which gave life to anything and everything. The very word animal means has a soul. The animus, the ancient Egyptian term Atan, the ancient Sanskrit term Atman, Tattvam Asi, Atahi Tanonati, Kohi Nato Perasiya, that's ancient Prakrit. This is the exact same term in ancient Sanskrit, in ancient Pali, in ancient Egyptian that we have in English, except now we refer to it in a technical context of atmosphere, the air that blows through the trees. The animus, the air that actually comes in and out of our lungs. The soul of the weather. Atmospheric, atmosphere. Now, of course, it has been bleached into a somewhat meaningless term with no metaphysical context. But to think that you have a soul, that something has possession of something else, the body does not have a soul, nor do you have possession of something else. Okay, there's not possession of one thing by another, and certainly not the psychophysical or the corporeal self has possession of the spiritus sancta. Now, the misunderstanding of so many nihilists throughout time is that, therefore, since the body has no soul, which is true, the radio has no signal in it either. There are no little people inside the television set either. But there is no denial of the signal. You can go searching through the body and certainly not find a signal. A soul, but that is not a negation of the soul. The fallacy of subjective negation, or trying to measure the measurer, or trying to deny the witness. Subject precedes object of negation. It is as foolish for someone to step outside of their house and to look in the window of their own house and go, nobody lives here, than it is for someone to state that they have no soul. Subject precedes the object of negation. A self-negation paradox can never be logically enjoined. That is a retrograde fallacy. Via negativa. Now, the quickest application for the insight into what one is by very nature is not deduction or induction, but it is retroduction, which is the ancient Greek term apophasis. The ancient Indians referred to it as neti neti, the via negativa. The best analogy that I could actually draw to explain this is, how do you find a needle in a haystack? Well, a moron will go looking through a haystack for a needle. Another person who's slightly smarter will use induction rather than deduction and say, well, the last place the needle was seen was over here, and it was last seen 2 days ago, it probably fell in 2 inches. The person that uses retroduction, which is the ancient Platonic and Pythagorean methodology, goes, hey, the needle's made out of metal, asshole. I'm going to light a match to the whole damn thing. Poof! Everything's gone in a heartbeat, and the only thing left laying there is a damn metal needle. That is the methodology of retroduction versus deduction and induction. It is a lost, ancient Greek methodology for philosophical, monistic, and metaphysical examination of principles, causation, and the nature of things. Both existential and, most specifically, that which is non-corporeal. Retroductive analysis, which takes a leap of logical induction and applies it to retroduction of objective negation. So, I am correct, and anybody else that is a foolish nihilist is also correct to say that nobody has a soul, because has implies possession. It is also true to say that there is no soul in the body, but that's as ridiculous as saying that there is no signal in the radio. You're right, there is no damn signal in the radio, and there are no little people inside your television set. But the signal, nevertheless, is undeniable, it is irrefutable, it does exist in the absolutist sense, rather than in the existential sense, because exist, or existence, literally means to be outside of itself. But we can't be too literal and engaging in a philosophical lexicon and engaging the dialectic of monistic discussions so far as arriving to the truth of things. So the ancient radio analogy, the radio analogy that we have is directly applicable to the ancient analogy the Greeks and the Indians and the Pythagoreans had, where the signal was the animus, the spiritus sancti, the pneumatic principle, the breath. And that ancient term from the ancient Egyptian is the exact same term as we have in English. Atman, atmospheric, atmosphere. Literally the air, but not air in the literal sense, but in the metaphysical sense. Okay? So that's one of the ancient secrets of monistic metaphysics. You may or may not be interested at all, but some people might find it interesting. Okay?